welcome to my channel. I'm Anne and today I'm bringing you a book unhaul. So I've got a couple of piles of books here that I want to talk through that I'm going to be taking off my shelves and donating them. So the first two books that I want to talk about are two DNFs that I had, and the first one is Game Changer by Neil Schusterman. I recently tried to read this in my 24-hour challenge reading vlog. I got 20 something pages in. Didn't like the writing style, so I decided that I was going to get rid of it. And then I also have DNF'd Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. I got about 300 pages into this quite back in November of last year and decided to DNF because nothing was happening. So I checked on some reviews to see what are people's thoughts, and they said basically it's the same thing the whole way through. So I didn't want to read a 1000-page book being bored out of my mind, so I decided to DNF it. Then I've got a stack of books that I really didn't like that I've read the whole way through, didn't like them, didn't give them a good rating, so I want them off my shelves. The first one is The Ice Twins by S.K. Tremaine. Didn't like the main character. She was a hypocrite. I didn't like what was happening. It was quite atmospheric, but I just didn't like the characters at all. Had no interest in reading it. It took me a long time to read it. I'm pretty sure I read this for Dante's Inferno for the reading vlog, and yeah, didn't like it. Then we have a 1-star read, Cost by Roxana Robinson. I hated this book so much. I gave it 1 star. I have dog-eared multiple spots on this book where I found problematic things. It was fat phobic. I just didn't understand it. I didn't like it. Our main character is just frustrating, and yeah, none of the characters were likable, and I did not have a fun time with it. The next one is Nerve by Gian Ryan. I read this so I read both of these for my blind date with the book. If you haven't checked those out, I'll link all the videos that I'm talking about down below. I gave this 2 stars, didn't like it. Again, did not like the main character, didn't understand the whole reasoning behind this book, and yeah, just didn't have a great time with it. The Girls by Emma Cline. Didn't really like it, didn't like our main character in this one. Can you see a theme here? I honestly don't remember if I finished this or not. I cannot remember. I should probably look that up, shouldn't I? Let's see. So on my Goodreads it says that I did finish it and I gave it 2 stars. I honestly have cannot remember what happened in this book. I know it was about a girl who became obsessed with another girl, and then she joined like the Manson group. That's all I remember. The next one is Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. Didn't really enjoy this one. I finished the whole thing, but I found it to be very slow moving. Nothing really happened in this one either. I just didn't find it to be a fun time. And then the last one of the books that I read and didn't enjoy is Fire and Flood by Victoria Scott. I read this only recently for my 24-hour timer challenge as well, and again didn't really like this. There is girl on girl hate. There is not a lot of explanation as to what's going on in this book. It kind of is just like a set up for the next book, I think. I didn't have a great time with it. The next stack of books that I have are books that I read and found okay. Didn't really love them too much, but I don't want them on my shelves anymore. So the first one is Red Dragon by Thomas Harris. I have been obsessed with the Hannibal movies for as long as I can remember, so I really wanted to read these books. This was a 3-star read for me. I read it many years ago, and I finally just finished the series, so I decided that I was going to get rid of this one and The Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal Rising as well. So these were like 3-star reads for me. I didn't have a great time with them. I found them to be slow going, slow moving, but I am glad that I read them as the series, so I can kind of see the basis behind the movies that I really enjoy. And yeah, I'm going to be taking them off my shelf. Then we have All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I read this for a TBR Veterans vlog. I think it was my first one. And I gave this 4 stars. I had a really good time with this. I did enjoy it, but it's not something that I'm going to reread. Historical fiction is just not something for me. And yeah, it's not something that I'm going to reread. I do think it is an important read, and I did annotate it a little bit, so hopefully the donation place will take it. But yeah, it was okay. It did hit me with an emotional punch in the face at the end. but I think that's all with historical fiction that is based around World War II. And we have Unbirthday by Liz Braswell, and this is fine. I thought it was okay. I had a good time reading it, but I don't really remember much about what happened in it, and yeah, it was fine. Then we have Helen Hart, Craving by Helen Hart, and I found this to be a little bit of an annoying read because at the end it kind of ends on this sort of cliffhanger that you don't really expect on a romance. It's I wouldn't call this a romance. I don't know what I'd call it, but I just didn't have a great time with it. It was very fast paced, like everything happened very quickly within this, and then all of a sudden it kind of blew up, and then it was like, okay, that's the end of the book. And I don't know, there was no like happily ever after in this because it's a duology or whatever, so you have to go into the next one to kind of see what happens with them, and it was fine. Then we have Hide by Kirsten White. I read this towards the start of the year this year, and I found it to be okay. I don't really remember much about it. Again, it's been a while, but I found it to be quite atmospheric, but I don't need it on my shelf. I'm not going to be rereading it. And then we've got also Harrow Lake by Kat Ellis. This is on my TBR Veterans vlog number 2. And I kind of saw where this was going. I was very aware of what was happening within this story. It was very obvious what was going to happen. And yeah, it was fine. It was a little bit creepy at the beginning, but then things just got a little bit convoluted, and it was fine. I keep saying that. But then I have a stack of books that I really enjoyed, but I don't think I'm going to reread them. So I'm just going to be taking them off my shelves because I have too many books and I don't need books that I don't think I'm going to reread. So the first one is The Chain by Adrian McKinsey. This is the other book that was in my blind date with the book. I had a great time with this. It was a 4-star read for me. It was really fun, really atmospheric, lots of things happening, very action-packed, and it dealt with a lot of important topics, and I had a really good time with it. And yeah, I just don't think it's going to be something that I reread. If I do, it'll probably be picking up the audiobook or something, but I don't need this on my shelves taking up space. Then we have Hannibal by Thomas Harris. This is book 3, and I gave this 5 stars. Absolutely obsessed with this book. It's so different from the movie. I was really surprised, and I had such a great time with this. And I'm sad to see this one go, but it doesn't make sense for me to get rid of the other 3 and then not get rid of this one. So again, if it's something that I do want to reread, I might be able to find the audiobook or even buy the ebook, but I don't think it needs to take up space on my shelves. Then we have The Winters by Lisa Gabrielle. This is another one that I read during my Dante's Inferno reading vlog. I had a good time with this. Again, this is a Rebecca sort of retelling. It was a fun time, quite dark, atmospheric, very gothic, and yeah, it's something that I'm probably never going to reread again, so I don't need it on my shelves. The next book is 13 by Steve Kavanagh. I am so glad I finally read this book. I bought it many years ago, back when I lived in Ireland. That's how long. I literally brought it to New Zealand with me, and I still hadn't read it. I only read it this year for my TBR Veterans vlog number 2. I gave this a 4-star read. It was really unexpected because I did start this a couple of years ago. I only got about 20 pages in and I just wasn't having a good time with it. But when I read it this time around, I had such a great time. It was so much fun. It was really action-packed. There was so much happening, and I was just really ecstatic that I really enjoyed it. And it was just a very interesting premise to a thriller, and I had a great time with it. But again, it's not something that I'm going to reread. I probably won't be continuing the series, but it was a fun time when I read it. Then we have Capturing the Devil by Carrie Maniscalco. This is the only physical book that I own of the series. This is the 4th book in the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. This is another 5-star read for me. I absolutely loved it, but it's again a series that I don't think I'm going to reread because all the other books were 3 or 4 stars. Again, I had a great time with this one. I really enjoyed the ending. I love seeing the relationship. I love Audrey Rose and Thomas Cresswell. I only bought this physical book because I couldn't find the audiobook anywhere. It wasn't on Everand or on Libby, so I couldn't listen to the audiobook because that's the way that I consumed the first 3 books. So I don't think I need to have book 4 on my shelf without having the other books on my shelf. And again, it's not something that I think I will need to reread anytime soon. And the last book in this unhaul is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. This was highly acclaimed back a couple of years ago and I found it quite cheap, so I picked it up. I had a good time with it. I don't really remember much about it. I know there's a lot of trauma within this, a lot of things like drug abuse was talked about in this, but again, it's not something that I think I'm going to reread. And if I do want to reread it at some point, I can get it from the library. It's taking up space on my shelves that I don't need to. But yeah, it was good. A lot of emotions in this. It was quite hard hitting, but again, it's not something that I want to reread. So yeah, so that is all the books that I am unhauling and taking off my shelves. I'm going to be donating them to the secondhand bookshop. Make sure you give this video a like if you liked it. Comment down below if you've read any of these books and if you'd unhaul them too, or if you have separate opinions to what I thought. Let me know in the comments below. I always like having a good discussion and seeing other people's opinions on books. And if you want to see more content from me, make sure to subscribe too. Bye.